Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Feels weird. I feel like I should have my headphones in. Um, so today I want to delve a little bit deeper into something that I share about pretty regularly. I know it feels weird. I'm like, I don't have my glasses on. Um, One of the things that I've been talking about that is a core thing that the core thing that I help professional women with is people who are on the brink of or who are in burnout. I help them to come back to what I refer to as your own unique energetic blueprint. I have a process, a unique process, my own energetic blueprint process that I take women through to actually come back to your own core self, your own unique energetic blueprint, because burnout is an energy thing, and it is a situation where we have kind of scattered our energy in many different places, and bringing it back can help us to do a lot of things differently. And I'll talk a lot more about that whole process and about those things. I'm actually going to be doing later in June a webinar. I'm going to start doing some webinars on this. So look for that. And I wanted to start today. One of the things that I talk about, and I actually have a free little worksheet on this, and I'll probably update it again with some new things am working on. But it's if you want that worksheet, it's 3 strategies to work less. I talk about working less because I think that is one of the things that can tend to scatter our energy. When you're checking emails every evening, when you're working on the weekends. And it isn't necessarily every single time, but this practice, they did a study, Slack actually did a study of 10,000 kind of desk workers and found that by checking email in the evenings and by working in the evenings, they actually experienced a 20% drop in productivity the next day. Our brains need active rest. I'm going to talk about that as the third strategy, but I want to share with you 3 strategies to work less. And some of these are in the worksheet, but I'll walk through some things here. And I think they're all in there. But one of the things that I want to focus on is really looking at what your tasks and responsibilities are, and think about what are the outcomes you're responsible for. I think oftentimes we can take on extra projects or extra tasks or start to do things like, oh, yeah, I can handle that. And then all of a sudden it becomes a regular thing. And I think taking a regular uh, audit or inventory of all of the things that you're doing and looking at how many of those are really truly critical for your success in your role, and how many of those could be, one, prioritized or delegated. So you might take and look at all of those tasks, make a list of every single one of your workload, your priorities, and look at how you might be able to offload some of those to someone on your team who is ripe for development, who is potentially, looking at that next level, or even maybe 2 levels down, someone who might be a high potential that you're trying to grow into another one of your direct reports, or a role in another department. How can you use that to take some things off of your plate that aren't as really, really critical to the success of your role? And sometimes you might need someone to bounce that off of, a coach. That's sometimes what I do with my clients, or maybe your boss or a coworker, and really look at how can you take some of the responsibilities that you're doing and share those and help develop others in the process. So that's strategy number 1, prioritize and delegate. And while you're doing that, look at things, you probably heard the feedback process called stop, start, continue. I did this with leaders when I was a manager at Harley, and we did this. Everybody gave feedback. What would they like someone to stop, start, or continue? And you can do this with projects. You can do this, but you can do this with yourself. Look at what do you need to stop? What do you need to start? What do you need to continue? And so that kind of an assessment can be helpful. So that's the first thing, is prioritize, delegate, or delete. I mean, you might need to actually remove things. Like, we don't need to be doing this anymore. I did a project at Hewitt Associates once, and one of the things we learned, we were doing these process flows, and we found like 2 or 3 tasks within this process flow that could be stopped, that no one had communicated. They were doing a task that was no longer necessary. And this was way back in the day, but because it had to do with microfiche, of all things. And the process flow, really looking at, okay, where do things go and what's going on? And what they realized is somebody was doing a task and pulling all this microfiche and sending it to another office, and that office wasn't using it. They didn't need it, but no one ever said they weren't using it or that they didn't need it. And so sometimes really just taking a step back and taking a pause. We're going so quick. We're always on. We're just going, that sometimes we need that pause to be able to really get a picture of all of the things that are going on and how can we pull them back. Another one is a second strategy that I want to share with you, is to set some boundaries for balance. And I know this can sometimes be hard, and start with ending your workday, and if you can, start with 1 day a week. Pick a time, and then pick a time that you want to end your workday. Let's say 5 o'clock, 4:30, 5 o'clock, 5:30, whatever it is. And on that day, so let's say every Monday you end your day at 5. If you're used to working till 6, or let's say you work till 5, you go home, you have dinner, and then you work until, from 8 until 11 or something like that. Pick 1 day a week to start. I know some people who've done it and just went cold turkey, and they set their workday to end at 4:30 or 5 o'clock, and they didn't go back. They did it every day going forward. And yes, there might be a periodic time where there's a project that needs to be done or something that's critical. And what they found in a study of thousands of workers in the UK from several different companies is that when they went from a 40-hour week to a 32-hour week, they paid them the same. 4 days instead of 5. And so they had 4 8-hour days, and they got as much or more work done in 4 days. Why? Because they condensed a lot of the buffer time, the time that people were, if they're working from home, maybe they're just stepping outside for a while, and it's not that you're cranking through 8 straight hours. Yes, we need 5-minute breaks here and there, or 10-minute breaks here and there. And there was less scatteredness. There was a lot more deep work being done in those 4 days. And I think part of that, they said that people had higher engagement, they had higher work satisfaction, knowing that they always had that 3-day weekend. And so that focus is something I want you to think about. How can you build that focus in? How can you condense, start with 1 day a week, putting that boundary up of, I'm not going to be answering emails after 5 o'clock on this day. And if you can do the whole week, great. But sometimes you need to start small and celebrate the win. Do it for a month. Every Monday, end your day at X time. Or Mondays and Fridays, you're going to end at 4:30. And see how that goes, and celebrate when you do it. celebrate it. And a lot of times you'll need to communicate to your colleagues, to your family. Maybe you need an accountability partner to help you with that. So those are 2 strategies. And I want to share one more. I'm going a little longer than I planned, but I want to share one more thing that can be super helpful. And it is creating a no meeting zone. I know there's certain organizations. In fact, I think I saw on LinkedIn that there's a woman from Nike, and I think Fridays are no meeting days for them. Maybe not. I might have gotten that wrong. But I saw somebody on LinkedIn where they had Friday no meeting day. And so can you set up within your department, within your organization, the organization, depending on how large it is, might be a challenge, but start with your team and have either a no meeting afternoon, maybe a certain afternoon, and maybe you can shift things, but that's something that you have total control over, and really use that because what it can do for you, use that for project completion, for deep work. There's a great book called Deep Work, and I forget the author right now, but great book. And there's so much benefit to having blocks of time for deep work, whether you can start with an afternoon or a whole day. And really, I think they've said that 4 hours for a lot of people is the max they can do of deep work without a break in between. But and even if you do, I know some people who do deep work for 57 minutes and take a 17-minute break, or I know other people who work for 90 minutes and take a 20-minute break. But take that time, that deep focus time, that dedicated no meeting zone, and really allow for not just let's catch up on email. Really take that time to focus, that without the interruptions, turn email off, turn email notifications off, and really allow yourself some deep work. That can be so beneficial to getting things done that often tend to seep into the evenings because we don't have that focus time. So how can you architect some focus time into your day? It gives you much better focus by having that dedicated time. It can reduce stress because when you're constantly shifting between tasks during the day and meeting to meeting and trying to get things done in between meetings, that can be mentally depleting and it can be stressful. And it can also help you manage time better, because if you know that you've got this afternoon or a whole day of being able to take 2-hour blocks throughout the day where you can work on specific things that are your area of genius, your tasks, your projects that are critical to the success of your role. And it also gives you more control. So that autonomy, which as a leader, you normally already have, but oftentimes we're pulled in so many different directions that having this no meeting afternoon or a no meeting day can really benefit from that. See how you can do this on your team or at a department, and try it for a month, try it for a quarter, and see how it affects productivity, see how it affects stress, and see if it can help to start to alleviate that burnout. And if you need support in battling burnout and ending it and being in a sustainable, energized state, reach out to me and DM me. Just send me a direct message and we can set up a time to chat and see if coaching is the right answer for your burnout situation. Thanks, and we'll talk to you next week. Have a great rest of your week.